Hey everybody, this is Raul for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the enormous honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist Paz Lenchantin. Paz,
Hola.
hola, ¿qué tal? Welcome to Bass Musician Magazine. I'm sure many of you have heard of Paz. You've seen pictures of her playing. She's the bassist for the Pixies, but there's a lot of story. We'd like to know a little bit about your journey as a bassist. How did you get started?
Well, on my own. My parents were both classical pianists. My sister, she was also a musician. We were all a musical family.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my story is when we first came to California, I was at a grocery store. It was the first time I heard a song that had really attracted to me, and I asked my friend's dad, who are we listening to? And he looked down on me like, wow, we're really from a different time. And he said, this is the Beatles. And I said, wow, okay, who are the Beatles? And went home and discovered the Beatles and decided that bass was my instrument due to Paul McCartney, really.
Nice.
And I just picked it up on my own. I knew piano, the basics of piano. I knew violin, so I was able to pick up the bass. And still to this day, just love it.
Got you. And did you pursue any further training once you decided to do this, or how did you go about learning to develop your skills?
I listened to a lot of records and stood in front of a lot of speakers and watched a lot of musicians. Never took any lessons. I think playing with other people is really important. I played with my brother, picked up the guitar, and we started a little band together called Big Milk. And we just started playing out in clubs and there's no real rule.
No.
At the end of the day, creating your own style is just as important as how you pick a note, and by creating your own style, sometimes you gotta do things the wrong way.
Sure. Well, and with that, I know that in your history in developing that you have played with quite a few bands. So it's been an evolution.
Yeah. Well, I like to thank Joey Santiago of Pixies for giving me my first trip outside of Los Angeles.
Okay.
When we actually met in 1997, I think it is.
Okay.
He called me because he was looking for a bass player for his side project, the Martinis. And word was around town that I played bass, and he needed a female bass player because of the background vocals. And he was the first to take me outside of LA.
Nice.
We played a few shows up the coast of California. And yeah, and then almost 2 decades later, he called me again saying that Pixies needed a bass player now. And
Great.
now we're going to play again all the coast of California.
Well, my understanding is that you guys are getting ready to kind of initiate like leg 2 of the North American tour, that you guys were playing Europe and the UK and all that earlier, and now you've been in the US for a while and you're kind of resting now.
Right. We just got home like 2 days ago. And we are going to do the third leg and last leg of the year. In the coast of California.
Gotcha.
And Portland, Oregon, and come home, just a 2-week tour, and then we're home for Christmas.
Very nice, very nice. And the kind of the theme of the tour, if I understand correctly, is the album Head Carrier.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we came out with a record a little over a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been, yeah, touring the record.
Very cool. Now, I also understand that you guys do something where you mix up the sets, so none of your shows are ever quite the same. How does that work?
Well, we pick the first song when we're backstage,
Okay.
and after that, we have no idea what we're gonna do. But we have about 90 minutes to do it,
Gotcha.
and yeah, mainly Black Francis calls them out. Some songs don't need any introduction. I mean, any call, he just starts playing. We all know what it is.
Sure.
Some other songs, it's good to discuss, and that's it. And it keeps you on your toes. Some shows feel longer than others, but for some reason, it's always the same length, pretty much. But for some reason, it always kind of sometimes it feels like a much longer set, and sometimes a little bit shorter.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like that lends itself to a spontaneous kind of creative mode, and it keeps you on your toes, obviously,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
because you
It
can't.
does.
Yeah, there's
It
I
doesn't. It makes you. It also sometimes, I've done tours where we do exactly that one set for the
mm-hmm.
entire tour, and there's been a couple of times that I'm like my mind starts wandering because I'm on autopilot and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even. All of a sudden I stop and I'm like, oh wait, I'm on stage here,
Yeah.
because once you start, repeating yourself, or you're almost on autopilot.
Mm-hmm. Now, interestingly enough, with you having a family history of more classical music and a cultural history of being from of Argentina, but you're in a rock, you play in a rock genre, so you're kind of far away from those roots. How did you get there?
Well, every child rebels, right? How did I get here? I don't, that is the big. I want to, can Sirius answer that question?
Sure.
I have no idea how I got here. I don't even know how much I chose a lot of things. In retrospect, I just move day to day like anybody else, and
Gotcha.
you just kind of do what feels right, what sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was supposed to be a musician because everyone was telling me that. The family would walk through the door at any party or wherever we were, and they're like, "Oh, the musicians are here.
Yeah.
Play a song. Play, in the piano. Oh, the father's not going to play a song. We were already in the labeled
Sure.
a musician. So as much as you try to take out your label, it's there for you, and being raised in California, this is where we were raised.
Mm-hmm.
You just start getting inspired by your land,
Sure.
um, and I just found my own way, my own voice. Still continue, and I still play violin. I love doing string arrangements. I've
Nice.
done string arrangements for Queens of the Stone Age, for Jenny Lewis, for many great artists, and I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy playing it as well when I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
But I would consider the bass being my main instrument.
Excellent. Well, and you mentioned your voice, and it's always a good point to look at, and that is what gear are you using to get your voice? What is your choice of instruments?
Oh, I love my bass. I I get a little bit what do you call it when you're separation anxiety a little bit because I don't bring my bass with me. It stays with the truck. So I would like to find another great bass. I play a precision Fender Precision,
Gotcha.
and 1970. Love my bass.
Got you. Do you have a preference in amplification or using pedals or anything?
I do use pedals. I always play around with pedals. I've been playing around at home with dark glass
Okay.
pedals, and they make really great pedals. But on with Pixies, I'm just playing. I play also a Moog, a Taurus Moog,
Okay.
with my feet, you know. So I play that a lot of times in some songs. I also have a rack that I use for a couple of songs.
Okay.
A flanger, or not a flanger, but a Mugafuger, for little touches here and there for things. But for the most part, I'm just direct
Nice.
for all the songs, and I play an Ampeg.
Ampeg. Yes.
An Ampeg, yeah.
There you go. There you go. And in addition to the Pixies, and I'm sure you've, especially with touring, you've been very busy, but do you have other projects or something that you would like to be doing in the future, perhaps, that you're thinking, oh, in the back of my head, I want to get around to doing this?
Oh, well, as I mentioned earlier, I really love doing string arrangements, and and which has led me to a lot of passion to composing music for films or for visuals. So my main goal is to try to, when I'm home, to try to do a little bit more of that.
Gotcha.
Music for films specifically. I even short films, or I make my own films as well, and done music for my own little shorts as like a hobby.
Nice.
I made the last Pixies music video. I shot it myself.
Very cool.
Super fun to do. I did it on Super 8, kind of a whimsical stop motion animation. It was for this song called Classic Masher. And so I really like working with film, and it would be really great as a goal to compose for film. Very
nice. Very nice. And with something I'll come back to, because you mentioned being a female bassist, you're definitely in a minority when it comes to that. There's so many more men than women. Have you felt that it's been an obstacle or an advantage, or it hasn't made a difference being a female player?
Oh, well, that's a really difficult question. Maybe in my next life, when I come as a man, I can compare. Or if I come back as a man, maybe I want to stay as a woman.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to really know the difference. I feel very welcome. Just I feel like a human being, a role. I think it is important in a band, and not just the band, the ones that play the music, but the band, like everybody part of the band. Like our crew is just as important as as anything. It's like if you look at a band like a clock, a ticking clock, where you've got the big hand, the small hand, you got all the numbers, the big numbers.
Sure.
But then there is, the clock looks pretty on the outside, but what is going to make this clock tick, It's all the little parts on the inside that are just as valid and just as important. But we might not be able to see it, And we have an incredible crew with us working so hard. They've been, some have been there from the very, very beginning of Pixies.
Wow.
And they're just like a band member, like anybody else in the band. And I forgot the question. I just went to a whole different subject. oh,
It's
what is it like to be a female? So my point
yeah,
is that everyone has a role,
gotcha.
okay? And that role is defined by your, and it's nice to know your role. Like we've got the lighting guy, that is his role.
Hmm.
He takes care of the lighting. That is, you don't, I'm not going to go and tell him how to do that. That is his role. We've got the sound guy, and that is his role.
Hmm.
The guitar tech, the bass tech, and my role is to play bass and to
Yeah.
sing and to participate in songwriting. And that is my role. And my role happens to also be a female in the sense of this role as
Hmm.
the Pixies. It is important that that role is a female, and that and then you have Black Francis is the lead singer, and you've got Joey Santiago as the the lead guitar
Sure.
psychedelic master shaman, and we've got David Lovering in the drums, just holding it all, gluing it all together. And these are all roles. And in my personal role in music, being a female is part of it.
Gotcha. Well, and I think it's important, especially for young women, to see the possibility of role models of other women that have pioneered doing exactly what you do, so that some girl that could be of school age maybe will see Paz playing and go, hey, I could do that, and
Uh-huh.
it inspires, people to do
Right.
more and more things. And there's no reason why they shouldn't, honestly. If they can fulfill the job, if they can play and they can write and they can sing, why not?
Right.
So it needs to be available, which is really one of the important, things. But I find that so many of
There
the
are things about music that
Mhm.
you don't teach in school.
Gotcha.
And that is the road. And you have to have a warrior road, you gotta love it. Because there are musicians that never even see the road. You can make records and put out records and never have to tour. There's been plenty of people.
Mhm.
Arthur Lee from Love hardly ever toured. There's been plenty of artists that just that's not for them.
Sure.
However, in these days, that is a major part of being in a band, and it's not something you can really learn because it has to do with your dynamics with the others, and
Exactly.
and because you're basically have this family
Mhm.
that you're on the road with, and how well your chemistry is with everybody is really important. And that is something like, yeah, anyone could learn how to play these notes and learn, there's those that's important,
Sure.
but there is a whole world involved in being in a band, that is step by step. You have to find out if what is for you and what is
Mhm.
not for you, and there's places for everybody, in the
Sure.
world. Just because you don't like the road, or if it's too rough or whatever, there's you don't have to.
Got you. Well, and I think one of the things that keeps coming back is that when you have a positive interaction with a band like you had 20 years ago, it can come back and you can find yourself, playing with a group now, so being on a positive person, good behavior, good musician, bringing your A game all the time is incredibly important. You never know what's going to happen down the road.
Right.
Very
Yeah, I mean, I never stopped playing. I think for me, music has a lot of shapes, and I love all the shapes. There are shapes that, yeah, are more popular,
hmm
and there are shapes that are um, more, esoteric, and more not for everybody. And there are shapes that are, a little bit not for for the masses, or
Sure.
so I've loved all kinds of shapes of music, and I'm on this road to discover a lot of them, not just one. So even though maybe you have only known me like 20 years, and then I've jumped in, it's like you and many probably have only seen these like two major ones,
Sure.
but throughout time, I have nonstop been on the road playing music, but maybe with not so, I think I've been at this point in four bands, four big bands in my life.
Gotcha.
Perfect Circle, to Zwan with Billy Corgan, to the Entrance Band, which is a band I created with my buddy, and we did that for about a decade, and then Pixies now, and within that, I've nonstop made records and toured. But yeah, I could see how in the masses you kind of jump like future, 20 years ago and then now,
Yeah.
But
Well, and it's come up when I've talked to other bassists as well that they might have played with one band or subbed at one point, and then down the road they were asked to join because they got along, and it is family.
Right. Getting along, I spend half of my year on the road. And in the time that I'm on the road, it's pretty much 24/7, with your road family.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very important how you get along in the spirit. And we really do. We really love each other a lot. Pixies family is pretty close, and just keeps getting closer and better. And we're working on our next record now.
Okay.
And we're just starting to work on shapes. And yeah, excited for the future.
Very cool. Well, and if somebody wants to know more about where to see you guys or where they can, find out about what's happening, what's the best website to go to?
Pixiesmusic.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Paz, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of such a busy schedule and road time and all that to chat with us. Folks, make sure that you see the Pixies in a town near you. Look for them at pixiesmusic.com and, put the date on your calendar. Make sure you get out there and see the show. So again, thank you again, Paz. Folks, you're seeing this live on Bass Musician Magazine.